What if I told you the most valuable piece of land on Earth might cost the United States exactly $0? Not 50 billion, not 1 trillion. Zero. That's not a typo. That's exactly what Donald Trump just said on Fox Business. According to him, the United States isn't buying Greenland. It isn't leasing it. It isn't negotiating a price. Instead, America is getting total access, unlimited military access, unlimited infrastructure access, no time limits, no rent, no purchase agreement, and in exchange, a defense system Trump claims could make the United States nearly untouchable. He calls it the Golden Dome. At first glance, the internet did what it always does. It laughed. It compared Greenland's GDP, around $3.30 billion, to the price of daycare in Minnesota. Memes exploded, jokes flew, commentators dismissed it as another wild real estate pitch from a man known for exaggeration. But if you slow down and actually listen to what Trump said, something far more serious appears. This isn't about land, it's about geometry. Greenland sits in a place most people never think about, the Arctic corridor. And according to Trump, that corridor is where everything comes over the top. Every long-range missile launched from America's primary adversaries, Russia, China, North Korea, would travel through this space if a conflict ever turned real. Control Greenland, and you control the interception point. That's the heart of the argument. Trump isn't talking about borders or ownership. He's talking about positioning, about placing defense systems so early in a missile's flight path that threats never even get close to American cities. And that's why he says the cost is zero, because the value exchange isn't money. It's security. Greenland gets the most advanced defense infrastructure ever built. The United States gets the high ground in the most dangerous century humanity has faced. This is where Trump introduced the comparison that made headlines. He referenced Israel's Iron Dome, then said to multiply it by 100, not because it's bigger, but because it's broader. This wouldn't protect one country or one region. It would shield an entire hemisphere. If that sounds impossible, that's the point. Trump isn't selling certainty. He's selling deterrence. His logic is simple. If adversaries believe their missiles will never land, they won't launch them. And if they won't launch them, war never starts. That's why he called Greenland a small ask. In his framing, the United States has defended NATO allies for decades, often at enormous cost. This is reciprocity. America provides protection. America gets access. No purchase, no lease, just operational freedom. But Greenland's value doesn't stop at missile defense. Analysts have long argued the island could be worth anywhere from $50 billion to over $1 trillion, depending on how you calculate its rare earth minerals, untapped oil reserves, and strategic shipping routes as Arctic ice melts. Trump acknowledged those numbers and dismissed them, because to him none of that matters if the land decides the outcome of future wars. That's the first shift in thinking most people missed. The second is even bigger. Trump didn't just describe defense, he described precision. According to him, placing systems in Greenland doesn't just make America harder to hit. It makes American strikes more accurate if conflict ever breaks out. That means Greenland isn't just a shield, it's a vantage point. And that's why he said this is where everything comes over. He wasn't speculating. He was describing the next battlefield and betting it never becomes one, because of what gets built there first. So the real question isn't whether Greenland costs $0. The real question is, what happens if Trump is right? And what happens if he's wrong? Because once construction begins, there's no undo button. We're going to talk about the moment Trump turned this Greenland idea into something far bigger, something that shook the defense industry, spiked military stocks, and triggered a $1.5 trillion decision that almost nobody saw coming. The defense industry didn't see this coming when Trump talked about Greenland. Most people focused on the ice. The defense industry focused on something else entirely. The timeline, because buried inside Trump's comments was a direct threat. Not to foreign adversaries, but to American defense contractors. For decades, the defense industry operated on a predictable model. Long development cycles, delayed delivery, guaranteed government contracts, massive profits, even bigger executive paychecks. Trump called it out openly. He said some CEOs are making between $24 million and $37 million a year, while taking 5 years to deliver a single missile. 5 years, one missile. Then he asked a question that rattled the room. Why should taxpayers fund companies that spend billions on stock buybacks instead of production? Why should the government loan money only to watch it flow straight back into shareholder pockets? So Trump changed the rules. No stock buybacks, no dividends. Not until the weapons America ordered actually get delivered. Patriots, Tomahawks, F-35s, delivered on time or someone else gets the contract. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a mandate. And here's where everyone expected the market to panic. Instead, defense stocks went up. Why? Because Trump also revealed something else. The United States just approved a $1.5 trillion defense budget, the largest in its history. So yes, profits are at risk, but only if companies can't keep up. The demand isn't shrinking, it's exploding. The message is brutal but clear: deliver faster or lose your seat at the table. This is where Greenland connects to a much larger strategy. Trump keeps repeating one number: $18 trillion. That's how much investment he claims is pouring into the United States right now, 4 to 5 times more than any country has attracted in modern history. And the engine driving it isn't diplomacy, it's tariffs. But not the way tariffs are usually used. Trump says he expects to collect over $600 billion in tariff revenue this year. But he insists the revenue itself isn't the goal. The goal is to make it cheaper to build in America than anywhere else. Take pharmaceuticals. For decades, companies produced drugs overseas, then shipped them back to American consumers. Trump imposed tariffs on foreign-made drugs. Suddenly, the math flipped. It became cheaper to build factories in Ohio than to import from abroad. And companies followed the incentives. Billions in new plants. Thousands of jobs, not because Trump begged them, but because the numbers forced the decision. And he says this is happening everywhere. Steel, semiconductors, automobiles, rare earth processing. The tariffs aren't meant to last forever. They're meant to force the transition. Once production comes home, tariffs become irrelevant. That's the theory. But there's a problem. The national debt is $37 trillion. So if tariffs are bringing in money and investment is flooding in, why isn't the debt shrinking? Trump's answer is growth. He believes if the economy grows fast enough, the debt becomes smaller as a percentage of GDP. He points to recent inflation data and falling prices in key sectors as proof that this strategy is already working. Lower energy costs reduce transportation costs. Lower transportation costs reduce food prices. Lower food prices increase disposable income. It's a cascade, and Trump frames it as something better than a tax cut. If families save $100 a month on gas, they don't need Congress to pass anything. The relief is automatic, but there's one proposal that could change daily life more than any tariff or missile system. And it's also the one that scares banks the most. In the next part, we're going to talk about Trump's push to cap credit card interest at 10%, why banks are furious, and why he believes breaking the financial system might actually save it. Debt, banks, and the 10% line in the sand. Right now, the average American credit card interest rate is over 20%. Some cards charge more than 30%. That means millions of people aren't paying down debt. They're paying rent to the debt itself. Trump wants to cap credit card interest at 10% by law. When analysts warned this would cut bank profits by 5% to 16%, Trump's response was blunt. People need to get back on their feet. His argument is simple. Credit cards were meant to be tools, not traps. When interest rates are so high that people can never escape, the system stops helping and starts extracting. Banks immediately pushed back. They warned of reduced credit availability, higher risk, fewer approvals, a tightening of the entire system. Trump doesn't deny that risk, he just thinks it's worth it. He's betting that millions of Americans freed from debt spirals will spend more, invest more, and grow the economy faster than banks lose profits. It's a bet on velocity. Money moving through the economy creates more value than money sitting still or being siphoned off as interest. This same philosophy shows up in his healthcare plan. Trump claims insurance company profits have increased over 1,000%, while Americans pay more for less care. His solution? Eliminate the middleman. He wants healthcare money to flow directly into health savings accounts. People choose their doctors, negotiate prices, keep what they don't spend. Insurance companies hate this idea, because if people control their own healthcare dollars, the entire managed care model shrinks. Control disappears. Leverage fades. Trump calls it empowerment. Critics call it chaos, because transitions are messy. Hospitals used to insurance payments would face direct pay patients. Drug companies would negotiate with individuals instead of massive insurers. Doctors would have to adapt to a completely different system. Trump believes market forces would fix this faster than government regulation ever could. But that only works if people actually have money. Which brings us back again to tariffs, jobs, and wages. Trump's entire economic vision is circular. Tariffs bring manufacturing back. Manufacturing creates jobs. Jobs increase wages. Wages increase spending. Spending increases tax revenue. Tax revenue funds defense and healthcare. Defense attracts investment. Investment creates more jobs. It's elegant, but every link has to hold. If prices rise faster than wages, it breaks. If automation replaces workers, it breaks. If trade wars spiral, it breaks. And while all this unfolds at home, Trump is running a parallel strategy abroad, one that's far more aggressive than most people realize. We're going to talk about Operation Midnight Hammer, leverage diplomacy, and why this entire moment could either define a new American era or trigger consequences that last generations. Strength, risk, and the question that matters most. Trump says the United States is done negotiating with existential threats. He claims an operation he calls Midnight Hammer eliminated Iran's nuclear capability in a single night. Multiple sites, Simultaneous strikes, no rebuild possible. Details remain classified. Independent verification is limited. But Trump mentioned it alongside past operations against ISIS leadership and Iranian generals. His message was consistent: deterrence through decisiveness. This same logic shows up in his foreign policy everywhere. Venezuela, France, NATO. When France criticized the Greenland plan as colonialism and hinted at service taxes on American companies, Trump threatened a 200% tariff on French wine and champagne. The comments stopped within 48 hours. This isn't traditional diplomacy, it's leverage diplomacy. Strength over consensus, unpredictability over procedure. Trump believes fear prevents war better than friendship. But unpredictability cuts both ways. If allies don't trust American commitments, they hedge. Europe builds its own defenses. Asia leans toward China. The Middle East plays all sides. Trump is betting that won't happen. He's betting America's power is still so central that allies need it more than America needs them. And then there's the home front. Trump claims the border is closed. Crime is down. Prices are falling. Federal workers are back in offices. Order restored. These claims will be challenged. Numbers will be debated. Narratives will clash. And then come the midterms. Historically, the party in power loses seats. Trump knows that. But he's betting history breaks if gas stays under $2, groceries stay affordable, and debt relief feels real. Because in the end, none of the grand strategies matter if life doesn't get easier. That's the final test. Not Greenland, not the Golden Dome. Not tariffs or trade wars. Affordability. So here's the question only you can answer. Do you feel the relief Trump describes, or does survival still feel like the default setting? Because every promise made in that interview is either a breakthrough or a bluff. There is no middle ground. And the truth won't reveal itself for at least another 18 months. Until then, the debate isn't about politics. It's about whether this moment becomes the foundation of a new American century or a lesson in overreach the world won't forget. What do you think? Is the Golden Dome real, or just a new name for an old idea? Is Greenland about defense, or something deeper? And most importantly, is your life actually getting easier? Share your thoughts respectfully. Subscribe for more calm, fact-driven deep dives into the stories shaping our future.